Look, I've only done 2 albums in 10 years.
He must somehow just flip on a switch and say, music time.
That's the way I really look at it. What does the next decade mean for me?
He always has an eye and an ear for what's next.
I don't want to put anything out that I feel like is something I don't love.
He's the ultimate showman, and he's a star.
You just don't get that every day. You have to wait for it.
I'm ready.
Justin Timberlake was ready for one of the biggest years of his career, which is really saying something for a Mouseketeer Justin turned teen heartthrob turned solo smash.
All dressed up in black and white, and you're dressed in that dress I like.
Days ago, he dropped his first album in 7 years.
Let me show you a few things.
Backed by a slew of promotion and carefully planned performances. On Jimmy Fallon's show, it was the history of rap.
I got you on the check.
And on the highest rated Saturday Night Live of the year, he was at times savvy.
I show you how to do this, young. Come on, New York.
And silly.
Good job. No me, say she. Good job.
The music, the moves, the money. That's the Justin Timberlake experience. Long before the millions of fans and mega stardom, there was 9-year-old Justin Timberlake, a small-town boy with big-time dreams.
People in the music industry always talk about this thing or that thing or whatever, but he definitely always had that thing, always.
Best friend Trace Ayala grew up with Justin in Millington, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis.
Memphis is a very, very, very musical town. Everything revolves around music. I mean, from the time we were little kids, I mean, you go to dinner and the bar next door has a live band playing, so I feel like Memphis brings it out in you, you know?
Whether it was singing a gospel duet in this rare early video, or during a charity event channeling one of Memphis's own, the king of rock and roll. The grandson of a preacher and son of a choir director never passed up a chance to perform.
Look at those hips, will you believe it?
Bob Westbrook gave Justin his first singing lessons when he was 8.
What did he have? What was that star quality?
Just his mannerism and his charisma, his hair, the whole bit, his natural stage feel. Well, you see what he's got now? Same, it was there.
From Hollywood, the entertainment...
When Justin was just 11, his talent landed him on Star Search, the nationally televised talent show. Back then, Justin only went by his first and middle name.
From Millington, Tennessee, welcome Justin Randall.
The young singer with the 10-gallon hat seemed comfortable in the spotlight.
I can't eat, I can't sleep, turn me every way,
4 stars.
But in the end,
our challenger, Justin Randall, receives 3 1/4 star.
His performance failed to win over the Star Search judges.
Congratulations for you. And
Supportive, she always.
Speaking to Larry King Live in 2001, Justin made light of his early loss.
Did you win?
No, lost the first round.
We saw Ed McMahon last night, too. We were going to get him.
If you lose on Star Search, you'll never make it.
Yeah, of course. There you go.
With his mother's unwavering support, Justin continued chasing his dreams.
Lynn was very much a loving mother and wanted Justin to have every opportunity that he could and to take his talent wherever he wanted to take it.
Shortly after losing Star Search, Justin heard about an open casting call for the Disney TV show, The Mickey Mouse Club.
So I went and auditioned, and I remember if I would have won on Star Search, I would have never, ever seen that audition. So it's really funny how stuff works out, huh?
I can imagine that had to have been a huge deal when he landed that.
It was a huge deal.
A huge deal, because now Justin would be singing, dancing, and acting as part of a who's who of teenage heartthrobs, including Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, J.C. Chazé, and one sparkling 11-year-old Mouseketeer who caught Justin's eye. Britney Spears.
So they're arguing this back and forth.
Chuck Yeager tutored Justin and the other child stars on the show.
These are your kids.
Yes, they are, right.
So kind of show me who's who.
Okay, we start down here with Christina Aguilera. We go up here already showing a bare midriff, Britney Spears, and then Justin Timberlake next
With
to her.
his arm around Britney.
Yes.
That was foreshadowing.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
But just 2 years after joining the show, the spotlight suddenly vanished when the Mickey Mouse Club was canceled. And Justin had to return to his sleepy hometown in Tennessee.
You know, for him, it was tough. He would step out and go and experience new culture and the new fashion trends, you know, things like that, the new hairstyles. Where we grew up, people, they're not open to change. You know, they don't like change.
I can't imagine people picking on Justin. Kids picking on him.
When you're a boy and you live in the South, it's tough. It's tough to be a boy in the South. But it also, I think, prepared him for what was to come in the future with having tough skin.
Coming up, Justin leaves his hometown after receiving a phone call that would change his life forever.
When I heard him sing, I mean, you know, it was just unbelievable.
A short time after 14-year-old Justin Timberlake hung up his mouse ears, he got a phone call that would propel him back into the spotlight. Chris Kirkpatrick had been tapped by Lou Pearlman, the successful founder of the Backstreet Boys, to put together another boy band. An agent sent Chris a tape.
I started listening, and I was like, wow, this kid can sing. And I looked at the headshot, and I was like, Justin Timberlake. I was like, Justin Timberlake, why does that sound familiar? And it's like he was on the Mickey Mouse Club and all these things. And I was like, this guy would want to be in my band? Like,
was there any kind of, well, he's really young, was there any thought about that?
There was.
I've been so lonely, baby.
But when I heard him sing, I mean, you know, it was just unbelievable. Like, his voice was just, especially at that age, it was so mature and he had so much control over it. You know, this kid's so unbelievable. Like, I'm going to at least try. I'm going to make a phone call, awkward phone call, and see if I can get this to work.
It did work. The group, which would include ex-Mouseketeer J.C. Chazé, Joey Fatone, and Lance Bass, called themselves In Sync.
My mother came up with the name. The first time we sang together, she goes, man, you guys sound really in sync. And we were like, ding, ding, ding.
With Pearlman's backing, some members of the group, including Justin and his mom, moved into a house in Orlando. They recorded their music in a secret hideaway nearby.
It's almost like we're in the fun house.
Right? That's kind of what it was. I mean, it's got like every luxury you could imagine.
So life for Justin in the house.
He'd already done the Mickey Mouse Club. Now the difference was, during the daytime, if we didn't have anything to do, Justin would have to be in the dining room with his tutor, you know, taking classes and doing school.
6 hours a day, huh?
Yep. He would outwork anybody.
Driven. I always say that all the time. But he's definitely the hardest working person I know.
And the hard work would eventually pay off. After 2 years of relentless touring overseas, Justin and NSYNC hit it big in the U.S. with a Disney concert special, filling in as a last-minute replacement for the Backstreet Boys.
How can it be that I knew?
And it just so happened that the guys were in Orlando and ready, and when that call was made to Disney to say, hey, we can fill that spot, they rose to the occasion, they went and did it. That was a big moment for us.
When I look into your eyes,
NSYNC became the new teenage heartthrobs.
I must have spent a little more time with you.
We had a great time.
But behind the success, distrust was brewing between NSYNC and Lou Pearlman.
When you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning going to radio and you're spending 24 hours on the job and someone else is at home going to the steakhouses and making 75% of the money, all of a sudden it's like, wait, something's got to change.
We're generating so much revenue and all this stuff. Where's all that money?
Pearlman had taken NSYNC to the top of the charts, but in 1999, when the group wanted to switch record labels, Pearlman sued, threatening to take the band's name and block them from performing. NSYNC countersued.
It was scary that if we separated from Lou, that we would lose Johnny Wright and we would lose all of our connections, we would lose our record label, we would lose all these things and end up, you know, back at square one singing, you know, at the downtown high school.
In the end, lawsuits were settled out of court.
And right now it's basically about the fans and our music, and we're so proud that all our fans came out here to support us.
Signed to a new record label, Justin and NSYNC turned their attention to the release of their second album, aptly titled No Strings Attached.
Baby, bye, bye, bye. I wanna be a fool for you. Just another player in your game for two. You may hate me, but it ain't no lie. Baby, bye, bye, bye.
It's really cool!
In its first week alone, No Strings Attached sold 2.4 million copies, making it the fastest selling album of all time.
Once you're gone.
Despite the growing frenzy, the growing bank account, and the growing adoration of millions of fans,
How much do you like NSYNC?
A lot. A lot.
those close to Justin say his feet never left the ground.
You know, when people get this big in this business, sometimes they get a big head, and their entourage just start to grow, and they become in a situation where they're unattainable and you can't talk to them anymore. He's that guy that's still approachable.
Justin's apparent humility seemed only matched by his talent and drive.
I always felt like I was like Mozart's older brother. He's so good at what he does, and he's so, you know, he hits on every cylinder all the time.
It's kind of like you're describing a savant.
Exactly, that's exactly what he is. He's a savant.
But it wasn't only Justin's talent in the spotlight, so was his love life.
Britney Spears and you. Give us this is Larry King Live. We don't fool around.
We are dating.
From the moment they confirmed their relationship to the moment it ended, Britney and Justin were a tabloid dream. Despite it all, Justin remained focused on the music, taking the lead in crafting the group's third album, Celebrity. Which included a lead single that seemed to take aim at NSYNC's detractors, who derisively labeled their music pop.
to
Sick and tired of hearing all these people talk about what's the deal with this pop life and when is it gonna fade out?
As a member of NSYNC, Justin Timberlake had done the unthinkable. He made liking a boy band cool.
Dirty pop, baby, baby, you can't stop.
Coming up, from boy to man, Justin sets out on a solo career and finds himself at the center of controversy.
It was definitely a big emotional roller coaster.
It was 2002. NSYNC had sold millions of albums. And Justin Timberlake was a bona fide heartthrob. But bandmate Chris Kirkpatrick says life for the band was all business.
This is the compound.
This is the compound, and we'd all try to learn our instruments, better than the next guy. Everybody just worked to that goal,
So it wasn't a crazy house, it was a focused house.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy at all. I mean, it wasn't like, you would think like, oh, there's girls over all the time, there was this. I mean, it was work.
No
there was
girls?
never... No, I mean, well...
Maybe a couple.
Honestly, as crazy as it sounds, it wasn't that type of vibe.
With his fans, Justin had a vibe all his own.
I think there's an appeal in him. He's been perceived as a relationship guy. Justin Timberlake's female fans are wearing t-shirts that say Mrs. Timberlake. I want to be Mrs. Timberlake. They're not saying I want to be your one-night stand.
If he was smooth on stage,
This one's triple platinum.
he seemed even smoother in the studio.
Is it fair to say that Justin is a perfectionist?
He is a perfectionist, but there's no work involved for it. It's really just boom, boom, done.
One take
Just
Timberlake.
rehearsed this
right.
like 16 hours in the garage, and one take Timberlake.
He got together with one of his friends, and they created the song Gone.
You're gone,
Justin's writing skills were getting noticed by the biggest names in the industry, like Michael Jackson.
Michael's people came and they said, hey, I think Michael wants to record that record. And I looked at Justin and I was like, you're not giving that record away. Because I knew how important that record was to him and what it meant for him as a writer to finally get some, respect, making a statement to say, I'm a writer too.
We're very, very, very excited to be here.
In 2002, Justin launched the solo career that would define his next decade.
Everybody was kind of figuring out, well, what are we going to do for the next 6 months? And then Justin kind of tapped me and he says, I know what I'm going to do. He says, I've had this music inside me for quite a while. I'm going to take this time and I'm going to go make a record.
You were my son.
That album, Justified, was hot enough to land his solo act at the Super Bowl halftime show. But when a, quote, wardrobe malfunction exposed Janet Jackson's bare breast,
He is now apparently committed the crime of the century.
He was very hurt. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster. So that was, coming off the thrill of performing at the Super Bowl to, whoa. You have airplanes flying around LA saying convict Justin and Janet, but banners. Like, it was pretty crazy.
It's completely regrettable.
a swift apology put Justin back on track. And his star continued to rise. His career would expand from music to movies, including
I'm Sean Parker.
The Social Network.
Nice to meet you. $1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? You? $1 billion.
2 business ventures. For starters, a clothing line called William Rast with best friend Trace Ayala.
I built this brand and then released William Rast.
Was he hands-on?
Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's too hands-on.
You're like, step back, bro.
No. Yeah, but he's very hands-on. I mean, he's rivets, buttons, stitching. You know, he was definitely very, very hands-on.
Add to the business ventures 2 Grammys for the man who brought sexy back.
I'm bringing sexy back. Yeah. And my other boys don't know how to act. Cut a hole in a box.
And even an Emmy for this guy on SNL.
Put your junk in that box.
But best of all,
I'm ready.
Justin would likely say finding the real Mrs. Timberlake.
He was always into Jessica.
Trace was the best man when Justin and actress Jessica Biel were married in October.
You know, it was always a celebrity crush.
Really?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You will hear him order something for her. And it's like, wow, you know, in the middle of us having a discussion about a 100-city tour, something sparked in him where he felt the need that he had to do something special.
A new wife and a new album with his old friend, Timberland.
Tim will come in and he'll have his headphones on. He'll sit there and he'll be playing something, you know, and then it's Justin sitting there in the corner, and then he starts picking up on it, and he'll run over and he'll be like, do this, do this. It's crazy watching them work.
Him and Tim had basically 4 weeks, and the thought pattern was we'll go in and make a record, put it out for the summer just to have some new music out there, and in 20 days they made 20 songs.
20 songs released in 2 parts and featuring a notable collaboration between Justin and Jay-Z.
I'll show you how to do this, young, no papers, catch papers.
I mean, obviously there was a chemistry that happened when they came in the studio together to make Suit and Tie, and it became the lead-off record.
I'll show you how to do this, huh? As long as I got my suit and tie, I'ma leave it out on the floor tonight.
By working with Jay-Z, he's getting an artist who is as well-formed as he is. And in a way, it is a grown-up approach to singing and rapping together on the same song.
We don't mind all the watching.
He makes what folks around my way call grown folks music.
Right, exactly.
He makes grown folks music.
And he's doing a great job at reinventing himself.
Girl, you're my reflection. All I see is you.
He always has an eye and an ear for what's next. Not what's cool, but what's next.